Ray Johnson. I'm a retired biology professor. I spent several years with the National Park Service and several years in universities. I met Steve Carothers in the winter of 1968-1969, and that summer, 1969, we started our first study with birds in the Verde Valley. We came up with amazing results. No one had any idea how important cottonwood forests were to birds in general. That winter at the American Ornithologists Union meeting, we gave a paper on the tremendous number. We had over 1,000 pairs per 100 acres of breeding birds. It so blew away the audience. After we got done, there was a quiet. It was the first study of its kind for the United States. Up to that time, you could go to a university, for example, and look in the card catalog, and what you would find would be riparian rights. There would be nothing about riparian ecology, about riparian birds, about riparian mammals, only riparian rights. Riparian rights are the rights that a person living on the bank of a stream have to the use of that stream. It was not until we started our efforts, and several decades later, of course, or at least several years, before you started seeing riparian ecology. In 1974, I went to the Grand Canyon and started there I was hired by the National Park Service to coordinate research in the Colorado River. Well, Steve was extremely interested in the Colorado River. He had been working there for several years. He had a boat that he could float the river and do studies. So we hired Steve under contract to the Park Service to do riparian birds, riparian mammals, basically the vertebrates as well as the plants. And that continued for, I believe, 4 years. And as a result of that, he came out with numerous publications. I did some, but that Steve and the people working with him actually published most of that information. The Colorado River at the bottom of the Grand Canyon is basically inaccessible. And so there had been very little biological work done previous to when Steve started. In 1984, Steve and I published a paper in which we used a new term for the washes, the desert washes. We used zero riparian. That was a new term in the literature. So we had come from basically nothing known about wet riparian situations, running streams and what occurred along them, to looking at the dry situations along desert watercourses. And now, if you Google dry riparian, you'll find city planners are using it. They're looking at economic importance. They're looking at floods that come along these dry desert washes and the importance to floodplain planning. So in essence, I say that Steve and I invented riparian ecology, with emphasis on Steve because he was the leader of most of these studies. In June 2014, we had a meeting at the Museum of Northern Arizona in Flagstaff. It's our first planning meeting of this group that's been in effect for about a year now. One of the things that came about is riparian as a word or a concept has been left out of the wetlands of the U.S. So this 404 permitting system that you have to do to get projects approved doesn't address riparian habitat. So what we're hoping is that there will be some kind of action taken to recommend that riparian habitat be elevated to a legal level so it can be addressed in projects of this type. That was one of two most important things that happened. The second thing was Mary Ann McLeod gave a paper on the whiffle, the willow flycatcher. Superb paper that encapsulates the problems we addressed with riparian habitat. This was a really important meeting, and we were extremely grateful for the support we got from SWCA.